Hello and welcome back to the True North Canadian Football Podcast, our 2022 regular season special. I am your host, Jimmy Leach. You can follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Leach CFL.
I'm Taylor Curry, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Taylor Curry SK.
I'm Carter Kennington. You can follow me on Redacted and also Redacted because the CFL's not happening. Yay!
Ooh.
But seriously, you can follow me on Instagram at Carter Kennington and at Twitter at CJK_Carter.
Awesome. Now, we have been away for a while, and I want to kind of briefly touch on that because if you go look through our episode log, I don't think we've released an episode in a while. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, again, we're all uni students pretty much here, so sometimes we get bogged down and, can't get everything done, and that sucks. And the other was I broke my leg in very late November and early December. So I've been kind of more focused on being able to walk as opposed to the CFL. For most of that time. I had a second surgery in late March, and I'm just getting up and about again and following the CFL a bit more. So that's kind of why we haven't had as much content. Is just unfortunately I've kind of been away. So without further ado, if you are new, this podcast has a bit of more of a focus on fantasy and drafts coverage. So your first time listener wondering why you should sub to this pod, we have better coverage of that than most of the other CFL podcasts out there, and we try to be neutral. I know for transparency purposes, I'm a Rider fan. Taylor's a Rider fan. Carter is a Bomber fan, and our editor is also a Bomber fan. And we have, I think, one other Stampeder fan that works with us. So
Yeah.
very
Well,
Western, group here.
But we're also just fans of the CFL in general.
Yeah.
We want to see it succeed as a league, not just our teams.
Exactly. Like I do make an effort to be, as neutral as possible and, be harsh when I think it's necessary for my team. So just for transparency purposes, if you think maybe, hey, you're hating on this team or whatever, that's just where we're coming from as a group. So let's start off with some general news. I'm going to ask you guys, how concerned are you that there has not been a CBA agreement yet?
Well, it's definitely concerning. I think the first preseason game's played in 8 days from now when we're recording. So, the fact that they're locked out, not being able to train properly to get into the season, it's not good. And while they have been working long hours to try to rectify this and get it done, it's still not done. And so I'm definitely concerned. Like, I don't want to see another shortened season, and that feels like what we're heading towards. And a lot of us don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, it's getting a bit ridiculous, like especially when I'm seeing things being done by like the CFL's side, basically saying like, "Hey, look at this agreement. Look at how much we're trying to, rectify the situation." But then when you read it, it's doing like it puts the CFL even in a more bad light from what I've
Yep.
seen. Like honestly, I don't think like a 10-year CBA, nobody's ever going to sign that in any league ever. Because just who knows what the world's going to look like in 3 years, let alone 10.
Exactly.
I will be a bit of a devil's advocate here for some of it. I know there was a false report by a certain CFL outlet that the league proposed getting rid of the ratio that was false.
That's
And
true.
then there was another, and I get that they want a longer term. 10 years is ridiculous. But generally, you're not going to start where you want to start or want to be in a negotiation. You kind of go a bit further. So in reality, the CFL probably wants like a 5-year one. So they're starting at 10 and getting having room for negotiation there, I think is the idea. Because on one hand, I think you're right, Carter, that having a CBA be super long, we don't know what the world's going to look like in, 3 years, right? So But at the same time, you can't do this every off season like we have been the last couple of years here. So I think you have to kind of strike a balance there, and I think that's going to be a challenging thing for the PA and the league to agree on.
The league's had the whole offseason to do something, and they've been the one that's been slow to the ball, and they're trying to pressure the league and the players to go, and it's just yeah, I don't know. The league knows what they're doing, and Randy's trying to grease the wheels to get it moving and like just get them scared that things are going to happen. I don't like the way the league's been handling this at all.
Fair enough. And then we're going to break down kind of the three main points of contention for the league and the PA. The CFL wants to have 12 padded practices, and the PA is not willing to agree unless the league improves their health and safety package. So that's one. They want revenue sharing to include all revenue, not just selected things. For example, like the TV contract, I know is revenue shared, and some other things, but not everything in the league is revenue sharing among players. And then, if revenue sharing cannot be fixed, they want to change the term of the CBA to have a shorter CBA so that they can renegotiate that at a later date. So those are kind of the three bones of contention. I kind of wanted to break them down. So the padded practice thing, where do you guys stand on that?
Well, it's tough because like I mean, you obviously need padded practices. I think the league has 3 right now, and if you do go to more, I mean, you are risking more chance of injury, but you risk it every time you step on the field. But the CFL is not like the NFL where they have like health coverage. They're not doing a lot for the players that get hurt, and like they don't have a lot to help them deal with it after. Like when there was that player a few years ago, he went to jail, but he got injured. The league, I think they covered his first surgery, but not his second and third. So it just was a downhill spiral, and there's only so much they're doing. So if they're expecting more of the players, there should be more compensation for them.
Exactly. Well, it's like, I personally, yeah, it's kind of like what you said, where it's like you risk it every time you step on the field. So yeah, why add an additional 9 times you got to step on the field and run those types of drills? Like I don't get it. I think I saw a stat where it was like injuries ever since they've sort of cut back on the practices, they've been down 35%. And like I don't see why we have to really mess with that. Like I don't know why I don't see how this would improve the type of play that we're seeing on the field by that much as that it'd
Well,
be like worth it for the injury side of things.
exactly. Like just to kind of add on to that, like these guys are professional athletes at the highest level you can get to in the CFL and the NFL. It's not like they need to practice how to tackle. They've been doing it for 15, 20, 25 years, you know? Like they know how to tackle. It's getting the other things down that they need to learn.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, there's an argument that I know someone made on the Sports Cage a while ago that we saw kind of some weird injuries because of the lack of padded practices, but again, don't know the validity of that. I do think as an evaluation tool, padded practices are important. So I think there's an argument to be made there that you could have more. 12 I think is a bit excessive, especially if you're going from 3 to 12, maybe go from 3 to 6. I think is a bit more reasonable every couple of weeks type of thing you can have one. But yeah, they definitely, if they're going to do that, they need to improve health and safety. I know they did have expand it last CBA, but I think you could definitely expand it further, especially if you're gonna kind of again have more of those practices where injuries are likely to occur. And then where do we stand on revenue sharing?
Well, they, like the league should be sharing revenues with the players. Like the biggest thing with the league is like the players don't get paid enough, and that's why they say a lot of players don't come down here and stuff. Unless you're like an elite athlete, you're not getting paid decent money. So I mean, anything to put money in the players' pockets is going to bring more players to our league, and the league, like we're almost like on a paycheck to paycheck as a league. You know, like they don't have a lot of savings in their accounts to like do things already. So like if it's not working the way it is, you need to change things up. But I'm also not a finance guy, so I can't speak a lot on it, but that's just how I feel.
I hate the concept of I hate that not everything isn't already shared for the revenue, because what is the CFL doing to make money that has nothing to do with the players? Like, at the end of the day, that's what I think about.
Well,
Like,
exactly.
everything
Yeah.
revolves around what's going on the football field. Those are the guys playing it, providing the value in the entertainment. Nothing like the CFL, if you get rid of the players, they're just a bunch of guys in an office,
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
nothing. It doesn't exist.
I'm with you there. As a business and economics student, my one thing with this would be most of the teams, if not all of them, are hemorrhaging money. So taking even more of that revenue away from teams is not great for the long-term health, but I know certain contracts they've negotiated portions of it to be revenue sharing like the TV contract was. But I don't think that's the case for all of the sponsorship deals and other things they have. So I think maybe you should strike a deal to kind of, in future, negotiate your contracts with that in mind. Like, have a portion of that going to players versus the league. But right now, again, with teams hemorrhaging so much money, I don't think they're in a great position to, take away even more revenue from the teams.
Fair.
And then, if revenue sharing cannot be fixed, they want to change the term of the deal. I think that's absolutely fair.
Hmm.
I think you can put something in this one where they say, hey, we're going to, like I mentioned, have a portion set aside in future contracts for like sponsorships or whatever for the players. And if you do that, you can come to the table again and say, hey, now that you've allocated for this, we want more. And then the league can be like, okay, we've thought of this ahead of time, we can do this. So I'm perfectly fine with that. If they want to shorten the deal, make it a 3-year CBA as opposed to like a 5-year deal, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then where do you stand on that, Carter?
on shortening the deal, if
Yeah.
possible. Like, if this doesn't go through, I mean, I guess, because at the end of the day, yeah, it's it all comes back to the difference of what the world's gonna look like. Because I think the biggest thing is you see things like NBA Top Shot and whatever, and the fact that somebody wants to, or it's they've talked about doing a Drive to Survive style show about the CFL. Are you telling me that the players aren't gonna profit off that at all?
Yeah, like that's something that you would negotiate in future. You'd be like, hey, this is going to be a certain portion that's going to players and some of that's going to league. And I would love to see that show, actually. That'd be kind of cool.
Yes,
So,
I don't know if
that's good
I don't know
stuff.
if anybody's seen Drive to Survive. I recommend it. It is amazing, and if they did something like that for the CFL, it would help so much, especially if they could get it on Netflix or something.
I'd love like a Hard Knocks, but for the CFL. That
See,
would
the
be
thing
my
is,
goal.
I would rather do the Drive to Survive aspect where you're kind of you see how the sort of outlook of every team is. I wouldn't really want to go a deep dive on one team.
Didn't
That's
they
fair.
say they were doing something like that and they sampled
Yeah,
that
yeah,
show as an
they did.
example?
They did, but I'm just
I mean,
saying how it's
nothing's happened.
yeah,
But
and
But that's what you need though with the CFL is you need to make it personal. You need to let people get to know the players. Like
Yeah.
who is it? Shy Ross. I seen a video of him a few weeks ago. He had a couple 100 pounds on the bar and he did a backflip with the bar in his hands.
Oh,
oh,
And
yeah.
it went viral. And it's like the CFL needs to market the crap out of that stuff.
Yeah.
And they need to promote their players not just by retweeting it and stuff. They need to go out there and make content with their guys, make viral stuff, and make people want to watch the CFL.
And I know we've been saying this for years. I think they need to kind of modernize their marketing to appeal to those critical audiences that they're not getting or not reaching really with the younger, 18 to
Dude,
24. Those guys are watching
well,
the NFL. They're not watching the CFL, We
even
are, but most
like
of us
my
aren't.
kid, like my son, Kay, he's 10. If he wants to play a CFL game, he can play the one on his phone, but it's 5 years outdated.
Drew Willie is the
Like
quarterback for the Bombers.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's you can't even keep up on the one mobile game they have, and it's like, how do you expect to grow with this younger audience when they can't go look you guys up all the time, and, like, and do things like that and play and interact? Like, I'm sure you guys, like, when I was younger, I played NFL Street and I played Madden, and that's how I got to find my favorite team and players. And,
Yeah,
like, you took advantage of that stuff, and the league does nothing like it. So it's just they barely even promote that they have their own trading cards, for
I'll tell
Christmas sakes.
I'll tell you what I did when I was a kid. I played Madden, and I would just go and find like every CFL player that was in Madden and put them on one team and play as that team.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
yeah, not every kid is gonna do that because that's a lot of work. So for me, you have to you have to modernize. You have to get that in because people our age and younger, they interact with stuff online. That's how they find new stuff, and that's how they kind of you reach them. And a lot of other leagues are starting to do a lot more social media marketing. For example, I use the NFL. Certain games every year you can stream on Twitch, and so streamers will, you know, watch an NFL game with their audience and get those younger people to watch. I think that's something that the CFL should 100% look into. Try to find a Canadian streamer who likes the CFL and get them to watch some games for their audience, because that's how you're gonna attract those younger people. And it's probably cheaper to do that than have a video game, for example, because
Well, and
that's
that's
something that's gonna take time to build. It's not something you
but
can do right away.
you're so right, because, like, I mean, I don't know a lot of famous Twitch streamers, but it's not like they couldn't find an American one that talks about sports, or even just like some Instagram, TikTok guy that does stuff like that. Fly them out to a game, put them in a hotel, and just be like, "Hey, record your weekend. Here's a jersey. Here's free food. Here's great seats." Put it all over your social media. You're here for the weekend, and it's a great time. And yeah, you get all this for free. Like, if they did that a few times and did it like they did one in BC, they did one in Toronto, they did one in Winnipeg or Regina, and then Calgary. Like, if they did something like that, it'd be huge. It would get a lot of people like, "What is this? Why are all these people going here?"
I know they did that with destroying the kicker a couple years ago, and that was really successful. And I'm kind of surprised they haven't really done that again. So
That's what I mean. Like,
I hope
that's
they do that sort of thing where it's like, hey, get an NFL YouTuber or get a Canadian who might, they might not advertise it, but they like the CFL, right? They watch in their private time, and then get them, fly them out to a game or whatever and promote it. And I think those are cheaper ways to reach people of our demographic than just saying to CFL, "Oh, just make a video game, guys. Just spend all that money, make a very expensive game." It's like, yeah, no, that's something that would take years to do. So we've just given you several kind of cheaper options that you can do to reach that audience, and then a video game should definitely be the long term goal. I know, growing up, yeah, everybody played Madden, and all the people my age, at the time they were CFL fans, but they left and became big NFL fans and didn't really watch the CFL anymore because of Madden, right? They got to play as these NFL players and got familiar with them that way. And CFL has nothing like that, so they just abandon it, and that's why you're losing a lot of these people. And then let's kind of jump into some notable rookie camp news before we get too off track. Former Riders backup Isaac Harker was cut by the BC Lions. Fair enough. I know they want to go Canadian at quarterback, so that's probably why that is. Another note from Lions camp: NFL speedster DeAnthony Thomas has not reported to rookie camp yet. And then Edmonton cut Buckeyes quarterback JT Barrett and replaced him with another Ohio State Buckeye, Cardell Jones. DJ Foster was released by the Argos to pursue other opportunities, so likely he's probably got an NFL look or something like that. And then let's jump into some interesting preseason battles. So for me, I think it's Edmonton quarterbacks. I'm really interested to see what they do with Trey Ford, who they drafted in the first round. It didn't sound like on draft night Chris Jones wanted to use him as quarterback, but in later interviews now, it sounds like they might try to use him as a quarterback. It's been iffy, and then they're bringing in guys like Cardell Jones, so it's going to be interesting. I think Nick Arbuckle's going to have some competition.
I was going to say anything can happen in Edmonton. They're bringing Duron Carter back as a DB this year, full time. But my battle is going to be the Montreal Alouettes quarterback situation with Vernon Adams and Trevor Harris. Really excited to see how it goes. Like, obviously, Vernon's been the guy there for a couple of years, but Trevor Harris is a proven veteran that has been to the big moment, whereas Vernon has slipped at the big moments. So, I think they have some really interesting choices to make. Like, either way, they're going to be pretty set pretty well, but still, those are two great quarterbacks, and either one's riding the pine or leaving. So it's going to be interesting to see how it really plays out in the end.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. But before I get into mine, I just want to say, if we're talking about Montreal quarterbacks, shout out to Vernon Adams as well as Jake Weineke, actually, because they helped out. I don't know if you guys read this story.
I seen that, yeah.
Yeah, Jamarcus Hardrick, who is a Bombers offensive lineman, was stuck in a tornado and a power outage, and he got like rescued by Weineke and Vernon Adams. So that is awesome to see.
Yeah, he Googled CFL players in the state he was in, and then he found Jake Weineke there, and Vernon Adams was in the state too. Like, what are the odds? It was
That's
so cool.
awesome. Yeah. I remember reading that. That was a really nice story. And then I think last year we had another feel-good story where I think Brady Oliveira went and rescued a dog from a river in Winnipeg, which was...
He still does that.
Yeah, he does that like a fair amount, actually. He does like rescue missions and things.
He just went viral
that's
the other day for doing it.
Going, but looking actually at mine, that's actually going to be where I'm looking at the Winnipeg running backs. And the reason why I'm going this way is it's because it's one, because Winnipeg, woo, but also this is a I think it's a tighter race than a lot of people think. I think a lot of people are just kind of like, oh, Brady Oliveira is just going to sort of slide in, and that's going to be that. But go back and watch some of Johnny Augustine's tape from like when Andrew Harris got suspended and we did the home and home in 2019 against the Riders. Look at those two games, because Augustine was playing in those games. It was ridiculous what he was able to do.
He is a guy that I really like, and I think definitely, if they give them kind of an equal shot, I think it's going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top there.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good battle.
And then let's jump into our standings predictions for the season. So this is start of the year, what we think is going to happen. So for me in the West, I have Winnipeg being number one. I think they're the top team until proven otherwise, especially 2 straight Grey Cups. Saskatchewan, for me, I look at their weaknesses, and I think they've addressed most of them. Given that the DBs in camp and the news I've heard about them, that was kind of my biggest question, is how they'd replace some of the guys they lost, and it looks like they've done a good job of that. Third, I have Calgary, just because, again, Calgary is Calgary, and overall, I think they're a well-coached team, so they'll do all right. Edmonton is in fourth, because there's too many question marks for me to put them any higher than that. And I have BC in fifth, just because I don't know what to expect from Nathan Rourke in a full year. I've been pumping this guy's tires since before he was drafted, but at the same time, just his style of play, I'm interested to see how that goes. And as a guy who's only in his second year out of college, being a Canadian quarterback, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him.
Okay. My West. I mean, we're looking pretty similar here. We're a little different at the bottom, but I got Winnipeg in first. Like you said, there's just, until they're proven otherwise, sadly, they're still at the top. Saskatchewan, I don't think they've fallen off kind of where they are. There's definitely a couple questions, but I think every team's got some questions going into the season, just like Calgary does. They got a lot of guys that left, but they still have Bo, so they're going to do good. And then I got BC above Edmonton just because BC's basically lost Mike Riley and improved in a couple other spots, so they don't look too bad. And Edmonton, like you said, just they had way too many like questions going into this season now, and like just with training camps being shut down, the questions are still kind of there. So it's going to be well. I think they shut down in 3 days. They're allowed to strike, but it's still like it's just very interesting. And yeah, that's my West predictions.
For my West predictions, I am so excited. It's the first time in my life that the Bombers are going to be the like top dogs undisputed going into a season. So that's pretty fun. So yeah, I've got them at number one. And even though they're undisputed, that doesn't mean it can't be close. I think that Saskatchewan is much closer to Winnipeg than a lot of people think. I mean, at the end of the day, there are two drives, like one drive in each game, separates the Riders from making it to the Cup and possibly being that team that's back to back. So I think that that's an obvious number two. Number three, I'm going with BC. And I just I don't. It's not even that like BC. It's just a lack of faith in both Calgary and especially Edmonton. But I've got Calgary in 4, and I've got Edmonton in 5, and that I broke the Google Doc, but I've got I've got Edmonton in 5 because they have just they've looked really bad. And I don't think that Chris Jones is going to be able to fix that in a year. I don't think that's I think we have to wait a little longer.
That's fair for sure. And then jumping over to the East, I have Toronto in first. I really like their team. They made some nice additions. I think their only limitation this year is probably how far McLeod Bethel Thompson can take them, but I think he can take it pretty far, so I'm going with Toronto number one. Hamilton, for me, they lost some key pieces, so I'm very much questionable about how well they're going to do, but overall, I still think there's some good pieces there. Montreal, I think we're going to see a QB controversy here, a very hot one for most of the year, and that might kind of stifle their progress, so I have them in third. Ottawa, last, and I know we have liked to clown on the Red Blacks the last couple of years on this podcast, but credit to them, they got a lot better this offseason. Who knew hiring a competent GM would result in a better team, but regardless, I think they're still last, but I think they're a competitive team this year and not stone like 100% basement team.
Yeah, yeah.
That that's how I'm feeling too. Like I got, I'll just kind of skim through it quick. Toronto, Montreal, Hamilton, Ottawa, but Ottawa is at the bottom. But like you were saying, it could very easily kind of flip. Like I could see them if they kind of with Mazzoli get it going at the start of the season, it could really pay off near the end, and it could help them maybe get that last spot in the playoffs. Like you never know. It's the CFL; anything can happen. So, but yeah, Toronto on top, Moneybag, McLeod Bethel Thompson. He's going to take them as far as he can, and yeah, like they're limited to what he's going to do this year. But I think they're still on the top. Montreal, I think, will be second. Contrary to what you said, I think having the two quarterbacks, if they play it right, isn't going to be bad. I don't think it can last for more than a full season, but it could be a good thing for them this year. And Hamilton, they've lost a couple key guys. They lost a few key guys, and I just don't see them being as good this year. And then Ottawa, yeah. Ottawa's going to be an improvement. They're not going to be the dumpster fire that we made fun of last year, I don't think, by any means.
Yeah, you're not going to get any free weeks against Ottawa, which sucks because we didn't get any weeks against Ottawa last year for the Bombers. But anyway, so I've got Toronto in first. I think everybody knows just like that team was looking really strong last year, and with just the absolute embarrassment of riches that they have right now, like I can't see them being anything else. I've got Montreal in second. I will say, in the dual quarterback situation, if you need somebody to buy in to a dual quarterback system, I mean, I feel like Trevor Harris is the guy to do that because
Yeah.
I mean, look at what he did with Ottawa and Henry Burris.
Exactly.
He's also a high character guy, so he's not going to be whining if he is the backup. So,
and one thing that I remember from a while ago is that like he had every reason to be super upset during that Grey Cup game for Ottawa because I believe it was like that morning he woke up with the plan being for him to be the starter. Like that was the team's plan for that game. But then something changed.
Yep.
So like for somebody to like super high character, he's the perfect guy that you want in a system like that. You don't have to worry about that. And plus, like with Kahari Jones, it's just a really well-oiled machine there. And then I've got Hamilton in third. I don't think this is the fault of themselves that they're in the bottom half. I think this is just the other teams are better than them, but not to say that they're bad. And yeah, Ottawa not in the basement, but still in last.
For sure. And then let's move on to our power rankings for week 1. So, for me, I've got Winnipeg in first, Toronto second, Hamilton third, Sask in fourth, Calgary fifth, Montreal sixth, Ottawa in seventh, Edmonton eighth, and last is BC.
Oh, fair. We're looking a little different here. I got Winnipeg 1. I mean, I don't think anyone can dispute that. Toronto 2. I got Sask at 3. I just think Toronto with their additions, they're looking a little better than Sask right now. Montreal at 4. Calgary at 5. They've just got some good problems in Montreal right now. And then I got Hamilton, Ottawa, BC, and Edmonton. And I think Ottawa. I really think Mazzoli could get the things going there as long as they protect him, and they could potentially be better than BC and Edmonton this year. I could really see it just because, like Carter mentioned, Edmonton's going to need more than a year to kind of get this thing going, and BC, if they're going to struggle this year, it's going to be at quarterback, and that's going to slow everything down for them. So, I could see Ottawa really being a better team than both of them.
Looking at mine, I've got Winnipeg number 1. I've got Hamilton number 2. I still think, coming off of back-to-back Grey Cup appearances, you can't have them lower than that, in my opinion. That's just
No way.
me, though. Then I have got Toronto in 3, looking like just super, super, super strong. Saskatchewan in 4th, and I think those top 4 for me are really tight. Then it kind of drops off a little bit. Got Montreal in 5th. Calgary in 6th, BC 7th, and as much as we're talking about Ottawa improving, I have to see that to believe it. And then I have Edmonton in dead last.
Fair enough. And let's jump to our CFL Fantasy. And yes, CFL Fantasy is actually open right now. So you can go and set your lineups for week 1 if you so choose to. So we'll start with our best positional options. So this is kind of bang for your buck type picks. So there might be a guy that you think, oh, why is he not on the list? It's because I think there's better options for cheaper. Then we do our value picks, which are guys that are 3,500 and under. Our locks, so a guy that's for sure going to be in our lineup. So for our best positional options, I'll start at quarterback. Dane Evans for $85.98. Nick Arbuckle, provided he's the starter, for $75.74. And Nathan Rourke for $68.35 are my 3 quarterbacks that are good bets. So is there anybody else that you guys are considering for week 1?
Not really. You gotta have a good quarterback, but you also gotta save some money. So, and I mean, it's funny because Vernon Adams right now is listed at $12,000 and Trevor Harris is $9,000. So it'd be curious to see what happens there because like you could save some good money, but still have Trevor Harris if that's the way you go. But yeah, lots of good options.
Yeah, I don't see anybody else that's super jumping out in the quarterback. I need to. The one thing I will say though, I don't like I do like, I guess, how cheap Zach Collaros is looking.
That's fair.
Just because, I mean, reigning MVP or MOP, I almost said MVP, the cursed words for the CFL, I guess. But yeah, like $4,000 cheaper than Vernon Adams.
Yeah, you love.
That's pretty good.
Like let's see. Let me scroll down here. Wide receivers with $4,000. He is a whole Tavon Smith difference.
Nice.
Like that's wild to me.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I don't know, like some of the prices with CFL Fantasy are kind of wonky, but I mean, I like taking the cheaper quarterback, especially if they have legs and can run, because if you have guys that can run in touchdowns or make plays at their feet, those guys get a lot of points. So guys like Cody Fajardo, or Vernon Adams, who's you're wondering why he's priced so high. That's why, is because he's got that running potential. And then speaking of runners, let's go to running back. I've got William Stanback for 84.64, James Wilder for 8,005, Brady Oliveira at 59.76, and whoever the riders are starting. Now, just because this is another training camp battle, we didn't quite get to touch on it, but William Powell left, so we really don't know who the riders are going to be starting. It could be Shaq Cooper, who's 5,000. It could be Jamal Morrow, who's around 3,800, or it could be some random guy in the preseason who shows out at 2,500. So we don't know there, and I think if you can get a starter for $5,000, I think that's a good bet in CFL Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, right now the way I have it lined up, I have James Wilder and Jamal Morrow in my lineup. So that's probably looking the way I'll be sticking as of now.
For sure. And I'm getting Wilder too. And then I've also got Brady Oliveira in my lineup for my second running back. So those are mine too. How about you, Carter?
It's tough because like when I look at the running backs, I don't want to spend $8,000 on one. Like I do like Brady Oliveira, assuming that he gets the start, but like yeah, I don't think I think I have to go with Wilder because I can't justify anybody else, to be honest, right now.
That's
I mean, I
fair.
guess it's just because we're looking early, but yeah, right now it's tough to make any real calls.
For sure. Now, for wide receiver, I've got Reggie Bagleton, and I might get crucified for this. It depends how he does week one. When he came back, he was dominant last year. Like he looked really good. So he's a guy that, for me, even though he's super expensive, he's probably worth it. Same case for Duke Williams, just absolutely dominant. I've got Kenny Lawler at 8,520. Jake Winicki at 8,301. Javon Couture at 5,735. And Ian Schaefer Baker at 4,017. I probably should have added, I've also got Stephen Dunbar in my lineup personally for 49.81. Any other receivers you're considering?
No, I would just like to say, I think for the price that Duke Williams is going to be, he will still be a good pick because with the amount of money that the Riders sank into him, I think they're going to be throwing to him a lot. So he's going to be worth it. He's going to get a few touchdowns this year.
No doubt.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully indeed.
but yeah, I don't see anybody else that like is like a necessary pickup, to be honest.
For sure. And if you're gonna go defense special teams, some people don't pick a defense in CFL Fantasy because salary cap. But if you're gonna go with one, I think Winnipeg is your best option at 46.50. I think Mazzoli is probably the quarterback you pick on, especially against Winnipeg's defense. I think he might throw a couple interceptions. So you're probably getting some nice points there, but at the same time, if you think you can spend those $4,650 somewhere else more effectively, then go for it. And
yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other defenses you guys are looking at? Maybe.
If you're wanting to go with a bang for your buck option, you could go with the BC Lions defense because they're hosting Edmonton.
True. I like that one. They've got a respectable defense.
Yeah, that could also fall into a value pick. I mean, they got Marcus Sales, who was amazing. He had a quiet year last year, but he was amazing when he was with Winnipeg. So maybe now that he's adjusted to the game a little more in BC.
Yep, and then they've also got Delvin Breaux there. So he's another guy that is an elite corner in this league. So yeah, that's a good bet there.
You know, you could look at Saskatchewan too. I'm not saying they're going to have the strongest defense in the league, but week 1 against Dane Evans' official first kind of start game, it's going to be a loud crowd. You know, the all the restrictions are lifted and everything. Like it's going to be a loud day that first game, so that could be a good one.
Yeah, for sure. That could be a good bet. I just want to see how the Riders secondary does before I start picking them, though.
Fair.
And then let's get into our value picks. I can only really find two because we're recording this before the start of preseason, so there's probably going to be one or two guys that are $2,500 that are stars in the preseason that we don't cover here. I went with Shy Ross for $3,295, and oh god, this name. This is one of James' teammates, who's another one of our hosts. He plays at York.
Oh,
Luther
Luther.
Akunavanu. Yeah, okay, we're going with that for $2,992. I think those are two good value picks. Is there anyone else you guys are kind of looking at?
I would just say one, Johnny Augustine for $3,300. That could be a
he's-
really good pick for you.
If he gets the start, yeah.
Provided he gets to
but-
start, yeah, I like that.
But even if he doesn't, I think they'll probably do a lot of rotating at the start to see how it goes too. You know what I mean? Like he's not like he's not going to touch the ball at all. He could be a good flex pick if you got 3,500 left.
For sure. And then let's get into our locks. For me, I've got Nathan Rourke. Again, I love my Canadian quarterbacks. Questions about his, decision making in his second year are valid, but he is a guy who gets it done with his legs. So you have a lot of rushing potential and potential for rushing touchdowns there. And him being so cheap, I think it's too good to pass up. So he's my lock for week 1.
Well, that's a good one. I got Duke Williams for my lock. Like I mentioned earlier, just with the amount of money they spend on him, they're going to be throwing him the ball quite a bit. Plus, in his last 3 games last season, he had 28.6 points, 10.5, and 20.8, and he averaged 16.8 yards a catch last year. So I think he'll just be a good pick to have on your side this year.
I'm gonna go with Zach Caleros again, reigning MVP. I think he takes this. First game and really shows out again, sort of being like, the conversation switched away from me and it shouldn't have. And so I'm excited to see how it goes.
Fair enough. I just realized we forgot to put in the prediction segment here. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to shout the games at you and you're going to pick your winner. So for the first game, Montreal versus Calgary, who does everybody have?
Calgary.
I'm gonna roll with who starts that game. Hang on, or who hosts?
It's Calgary.
Calgary
then I'm
hosts.
gonna go with Calgary.
I'm going to go with Montreal on that one. All right.
Ooh.
And then next game is, let's see.
Unanimous Winnipeg.
Winnipeg
wins that, I
versus
think.
Ottawa.
Yeah, come
I'm
on,
going
come
Winnipeg. Everybody else going Winnipeg?
on.
Yeah, obviously.
All right, fair enough. And then Hamilton versus Sask. Sask is at home. Who do you guys got?
I'm taking Sask.
I think Sask. Yeah, I think this is this will spoil my last pick. I think it is a home sweep.
Yeah,
week.
that's what
Ooh,
I'm thinking too.
I like it. Edmonton versus BC. Who does everybody have?
Yeah,
BC.
Lions. Yep.
Yep. All right. And then we do keep you updated throughout the year how well our predictions are going. Usually we're above 500, so we'll try to keep
Just
that.
above 500 this past year. It's good to
Yeah, we were good.
hear.
For sure. Usually I have that ready, but I just honestly forgot.
Yeah.
So all good. We'll have that for you for sure. Week 2 ready to go. And then we are gonna conclude with off the pod activities, previously called COVID activities. Obviously we changed the name because restrictions are starting to lift, but name is still TBD because I want to find a better name. This is like what we do outside of the CFL in order for you to kind of get to know us better. So for me, I'm going to recommend a game. I've been playing a lot of War Thunder. Free to play vehicle combat game. You can play it on for free again at any of the consoles, PC, tanks, naval, all that. Cold War, World War II, bunch of different areas. Super fun game.
That's right up your alley. There you go. basically for me, I've been working lots. I work Monday to Friday, so it's just a lot of, and I do sales, so it's just a lot of all over the place. I'm gonna say Marvel, even though it's kind of Disney too, because Star Wars just finished. But went to Doctor Strange opening night. Great movie. I'm not gonna say anything. Yeah, great movie. I think one of the shows is coming out. We got Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out right away, so I'll be glued to my TV every Wednesday morning. And of course, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker
Star
Saga. It
Wars.
has
Yep.
been crazy good. I got over 300 characters unlocked, over 50 ships unlocked.
Oh,
Nice.
You know, I think I'm at 57% complete overall, so I'm just grinding and trying to get 100%. It's such a good game. Recommend it to anybody that likes Star Wars.
Star Wars. That's
Open
actually
world Lego, it's the best.
dude,
Yeah.
it is actually fucking amazing. It's actually amazing. We're gonna cut
Mhm.
that out. Whoops. We're
Yeah.
back in podcast mode.
It's okay. We mostly keep it PG, but yeah, just one word
Yeah.
comes out. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. For myself, I've just been traveling a bunch, and most of it's just been like sort of in the province traveling for my job. But I also got to go to Fargo not too long ago. Got to
Ooh,
see
Fargo.
my buddy. My buddy did he does dubstep for a living. He produces and then does shows. He had a show in Fargo earlier in April, and so I got to go there and like sort of hang out backstage. Awesome.
Oh, that's dope.
And then also I'm working on building my own Dungeons and Dragons game, and I'm gonna be the DM of that, which means that I'm creating the whole game, telling the
The
story.
Dungeon Master.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I'm very excited for it because I tried playing it normally, like being one of the players and having somebody else like be the DM, and I just couldn't find as much enjoyment as it. And I like being able to sort of write these stories and do like twists and turns. So I was like, I feel like they'd be more up my alley to do this. So I'm excited.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you made it this far, thank you for listening. You can find the show wherever finer podcasts are found. YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now Apple Podcast. You can follow our socials. True North CF Pod on Twitter.
Or L.
Yep. And then I think it's the same on Instagram, isn't it? It's True North CF
Darn
Pod.
tootin'.
Yep. CF Pod on those two. And on Facebook, you can search us up at True North Canadian Football Podcast. You will find us. So, once again, thank you for listening. I have been your host, Jimmy Leach. This is the True North Canadian Football Podcast signing off.